I'm not going to waste your time. Let's begin. Hi, my name is Ascendant Nomad, and I'm a Destiny 2 weapons expert. On October 13th, 2022, Bungie released their mid-season weapon tuning pass. There's a lot to go through, and there's a bit of weapons gobbledygook that we'll need to get through, but this video aims to highlight the 10 changes I think will be the most impactful for the sandbox, starting with Festival of the Lost. By my count, Bungie announced 26 sets of changes to the sandbox, some earmarked for a future season. The ones I don't mention explicitly here are things I do not believe will be super impactful, or if they are, they won't affect too many people. I've also left out the changes to Sniper and Linear Fusion Flinch, as it's coming in Season 19. There are a few good ones here that just missed the list, and they are 1. Precision auto rifles receiving a minor boost to their crit multiplier, making their headshots do a little extra damage. This won't necessarily change their time to kill or their effectiveness, but they will hit a little harder for those who main them already. Great beginner archetype to use in the Crucible. 2. The stow duration for bows is being increased ever so slightly to prevent the bow swapping maniacs from running riot. It's not a huge change, and bow swapping hasn't been a consideration for most people, but it showed up just enough to be really annoying, especially in trials. 3. Precision fusion rifles are getting a nerf to their overall recoil direction, reducing the intrinsic effect by 50%. Precision frames of all weapon classes have reduced horizontal recoil in Destiny 2. It's about a 20% reduction, and with this change it's going down to half for precision fusions only. This means there will be a bit more variance to the bolts being fired, but in practice this is a wait and see. 4. Trace rifles are getting a stability buff that affects the gun the higher the stability stat is. Traces are continuing to get some love incrementally, they're very underrated at the minute, and hopefully this makes them more consistent at mid-range. With those honourable mentions out of the way, let's get into the changes in terms of overall impact, starting with the least impactful. Number 10. The Peace of Mind Zoom nerf. The Peace of Mind is a rapid-fire pulse rifle that has 19 zoom compared to the archetype's normal value of 17, which has a couple of different side effects. In my review, where I called it a monster, the most noticeable effect was that it allowed you to challenge people far outside the normal engagement distance. You can duel snipers, high-impact pulses, and scout rifles while still retaining the mid to close range lethality that most normal rapid fires excel at. This was a change well in the making, as Peace of Mind was always pretty high on the Trials report usage chart. With the zoom being pegged back to 18, that's still one more than the standard 17 zoom of other rapid-fire pulses. It will be stronger than most, but I think this change will just dial back its effectiveness on the longer range maps. Number 9. The lightweight SMG nerfs. These changes are twofold. 1. All SMGs will have their damage fall off end reduced by 1 meters. What this means is you're going to feel the SMGs start blanking longer range shots a little bit sooner. Right now they feel bad when you're a bit too far away, now that bit too far away point is a little closer. On lightweights, which have the lowest range band of all the SMGs, this is going to feel bad. 2. They reduced the base damage ever so slightly from 11 to 10.85 and the crit damage from 18.2 to 17.9. It doesn't seem like much, but that 0.3 difference in crit damage stacks up when you consider that you're shooting 900 rounds per minute. Theoretically, the time to kill shouldn't change, but the difference in practice will probably mean you're going to leave a lot of people with a bit more health than normal. Until you adjust. The reason for these changes is that they want to separate lightweights from adaptive SMGs, which is fair enough. But right now, when it comes to the short range meta, there's a little too much of a gap between slug shotguns and SMGs. I think these changes are meant to push lightweights to compete a little more with sidearms, but for people who love their multi-mac CCX and they're out of bounds, these changes are probably going to feel horrible for you. A little bit goes a long way. Speaking of which, number 8. Precision SMGs are getting a damage buff. Their base damage is going from 16 to 17, which means their crit damage goes from 22.4 to 23.8. This is going to result in a shorter time to kill for anyone you face at 5 resilience or less, going from 0.8 seconds to 0.7 seconds. For reference, lightweights and aggressive skill in 0.67 seconds and adaptive skill in 0.73 seconds, albeit at all resiliences. Against low resilience players, this change will be a godsend. For everyone else at 6 or higher, this doesn't change all that much. It's still a 0.8 second time to kill. However, the increased damage means that the forgiveness goes up. Previously, you needed 9 crits to kill, and after the change, it's just 7 crits and 2 body. Added forgiveness is always welcome. It's going to be an interesting time testing these against the aggressive SMGs next week. Watch this space. Number 7. No Time to Explain finally gets a small nerf. This is an odd one. No time to explain is being changed ever so slightly, with mouse and keyboard users in particular being targeted, due to its exceptionally high use in Trials and the Crucible at large. The recoil direction is being changed from 90 to 73, whilst the aim assist stat is being reduced from 45 to 40. From my time on PC, recoil direction is the least of my concern when it comes to high-impact pulse rifles. The archetype has generous aim assist cones, and the burst is so slow that you're never too concerned about how far off your aim kicks, as you can reset pretty easily before the next shot. With that being said, a reduction of aim assist makes perfect sense, but how much they've reduced it by doesn't seem to be all that much. Overall, I'm not sure if this will have the intended effect of making the gun harder to use, but the fact that it got a nerf, Bungie said it got a nerf, and then people will go ahead and say no time got a nerf, may in and of itself be enough to dissuade people to stop using it in favor of something else. It'll still be a contender for best in slot, but now you might need to work a little harder for perfect bursts. Let's see. Number 6, Jade Rabbit gets an aim assist nerf. It needed one. You know it, I know it, even the glow from its highlighting system says, damn bro, we really be out here like this? The aim assist stat is being reduced by 20, which you will definitely be able to feel. Right now, it feels like you can't miss, and this will likely bring it more in line with other high-impact scout rifles. This, in conjunction to the high-impact scout damage change, should make Jade Rabbit less of an automatic pick for distance maps. Speaking of that highlighting system, I'm glad they haven't changed it or removed it. I really like the shade of red it has because it's round about the same color as the subscribe button, which you should click. If you do, I'll read you a bedtime story of your choosing. Even an erotic one. Number 5. Adaptive pulse rifles get a buff to precision damage. They have seriously buffed the crit multiplier up to 1.65 from 1.6. This means the values change from 30.4 to 31.4, resulting in 3 extra damage per burst. Yeah, okay, that's not a whole lot, but it does mean it can 2-burst Guardians below tier 4 resilience for a 0.6 second time to kill. But not a lot of people run under 5 these days, so that's not a big issue for most. The secret sauce with adaptives is how they behave with even the smallest damage buff. Rampage X1 and Radiant, which provide 10% boost to outgoing damage, makes adaptives 2-burst at all resiliences already. With this change, they'll become even more forgiving under those conditions, making it easier to chain kills and keep streaks going. They were already in a pretty good spot as the best training wheels archetype, now they have some serious skill potential with them. Number 4. High impact scout rifle damage has been dialed back. Their base damage goes from 42 to 40, which means the crit damage goes from 73.5 to 70. Now this is still really strong and the damage output is pretty good, but it means you can't kill in 2 crit 1 body now. Doing that will result in 180 damage and tier 0 resilience starts at 186 health points. So they're unlimited range, but now they're essentially unforgiving as all hell. Their aim assist cones are still generous, but I do feel people are going to notice the change in damage quite a bit, and they're going to think that the high impact party is over. And it kinda is for the most part, but I'm still going to keep one in my inventory as a surprise option. Don't count them out entirely. Number 3, auto rifles get a flat stability buff. Auto rifles are going to receive a stability buff that scales with the gun's stability stat. Specifically, this targets recoil reduction, up to 20% towards the higher end of the stability scale. Exact numerical values here would have been nice, but they were not provided. This will apply to every auto rifle, but it will mostly affect the very high stability archetypes like the adaptives and the rapid fire autos, 600 and 720 RPM autos respectively. What the change hopes to do is to make auto rifles easier to use in their optimal range bands, and a recoil reduction essentially means that the weapon bounces less when you fire, enabling you to see and track your targets better. Right now, it's a little hard to do at that distance, but after this change, it will be substantially easier if you have a high stability auto rifle. If you've got a Sorrows verse with elemental capacitor, today's your lucky day. And mark my words, auto rifles are going to see a noticeable increase up the usage charts. This is very good news for auto lovers. Number 2, Rangefinder has been nerfed? What? Why is this perk such a big deal? I can explain. What Rangefinder does is it increases the zoom of your weapon and pushes the aim assist cones out to compensate. The current values are 10% added to zoom, 20% increased aim assist fall off distance, and 5% faster projectiles if you're using a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher. The zoom increase also pushes the aim assist fall off further, so the final value is actually 30% rather than 20%. With more zoom comes less effective recoil, more effective range, and furthering the aim assist cones. Your aim assist sweet spot with Rangefinder gets pushed back by 30%, which allows you to take on targets further out with confidence, but fundamentally it changes the feel of your weapon, which is why a lot of top players don't like Rangefinder. With this change, they're actually removing the 20% increase in aim assist fall-off distance, meaning that the cone doesn't get pushed back as much. Remember that an increase in zoom also means an increase in aim assist fall-off distance, so after this change is made, your aim assist sweet spot only gets pushed back 10% rather than the full 30%. What this means in practice is that your rangefinder weapons are going to feel as zoomed in as they normally are, but with less of the added aim assist benefits. They're going to feel a little out of whack for a while until you adjust to it. Does this mean you should dismantle your rangefinder rolls? Not even slightly. In PvP, you get a flat 10% extra in effective range, so your weapons will still hit for the same damage at the same distances that you're used to. The only thing that's being changed here is the aim assist, not the damage drop-off. Rangefinder hand cannons in particular will still be able to challenge at those crazy pulse rifle distances, but they'll be a little harder to hit now, and the gun will feel different than what you're used to right now. That's it. Rangefinder is far from useless and it will still be a great option. It just might not be the best pick anymore. And the most impactful change, number 1, sidearms get buffed and all hell is about to break loose. If you thought the last point had a lot of Bungie speak, buckle in. The change is an increase in auto-aim fall-off distance by 30% across the board. What the hell is auto-aim fall-off? Well, I only found 2 mentions of this term in previous TWABs from May 5th and June 30th, which were the TWABs explaining and changing airborne effectiveness. They were talking about airborne auto-aim, and in brackets they defined auto-aim as bullet bending for both sets of inputs. Now, have you ever had a moment where you fired a shot and it still hit? Of course you have. This is Destiny. When it does that, that's bullet bending in action. When your reticule or crosshair isn't quite on target but the game grants you the headshot or body shot anyways, you've got aim assist and accuracy cones overlapping with the part of the target. The tolerance of this is preset, with fixed numerical values determining everything, from the aim assist value of your weapon to the inherent cone angle of your weapon's archetype, and in reality it happens way more than some would say is acceptable. It's part of the reason why Destiny 2 is not really considered a competitive shooter, given how much the game helps you out. The system is designed to help you land shots, which means you get kills, which means more fun for you, because hey, games are meant to be fun. Radical concept. Of course, many competitive games also employ variations of bullet bending systems, but I don't make content for those games, so they're about as relevant to me as the competitive playlist is for Destiny 2. Anyways, the 30% boost to auto-aim fall-off distance means that sidearms are going to feel better at the ranges you currently use them, and even better a little further out. I've noticed with most sidearms that they have a specific range to them, and when you go a little outside that range, you may as well be shooting air. This change should fix that and make them a little easier to use outside of their intended range band. Or in other words, sidearms may have just gotten an effective range buff and they're going to feel a lot more consistent to use. Which means that pellet shotguns have even less of a reason to exist now, and we're going headfirst into a sidearm meta. But none of it matters. Whilst we're getting ever closer to true PvP weapon balance in the sandbox, it's really hard to care when there's something much more fundamentally broken with the bigger picture. I'll explain more in another video. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the changes, as happy as one can be when talking about the sandbox in Destiny 2. And that's it. Hope it was helpful. Let me know if videos like this are your kind of bag, and if you prefer them to elongated TWAB reads. Bungie have been getting fairly technical with them, and I figure I'm better as a community translator to this stuff than flat out just reading them. As ever, huge thanks to my wonderfully patient patrons for making these videos possible. I'm Ascendant Nomad, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.